Actually, we're standing here today talking about the culmination of over a decade of effort by folks within this region. And it is illustrative of the kind of commitment within this region to focus on opportunity. And I'm calling out the fact that over 10 years ago, a group of folks at the sponsorship of the Greater Dayton IT Alliance got together to talk about technology commercialization and what areas of technology specifically in this region we should go after and address. And one of those that was identified was information technology, but more specifically, the issues related to advanced data management and analysis. So that was in 2000. 2003, this same group, companies, Wright State University as the lead in this endeavor, put together a proposal to the state for the then new Third Frontier program, and proposed a Wright Center of Innovation with a focus in advanced data management and analysis, bringing together the talents from companies like LexisNexis, Reynolds & Reynolds, NCR Teradata, and others. And they put that together along with a proposal for an eminent scholar to support the work in this area, and those proposals went forward together. And as a result of that, daytaOhio, which was initially called the Wright Center of Innovation for Advanced Data Management and Analysis, we all agreed that was a bit too much of a mouthful, became daytaOhio, and as a result of that, in 2007, Dr. Sheff came to Dayton. And now we see the evolution of that investment, of that commitment, of that focus, of that energy in the development and creation of this center, which will take this work forward. And so, in fact, I guess we're at the end of a beginning and looking forward to a tremendous future. And I think what we talk about in terms of regional impact is how we're going to take that initial vision forward of technology commercialization through this center. And it's one of the reasons for the close collaboration between daytaOhio and Kno.e.sis. And that started very shortly after Dr. Sheff arrived with initial collaborations in the area of sensors and the idea of a sensor web and how we could use things like markup languages to enable the use of enhance the use of multi-layered sensing. And we view our role as collaborators, as partners in this, as complementary in terms of the data management issues, but more importantly, we believe that we can use advanced visualization, some of the immersive environments that Dr. Flagg talked about, and other techniques to improve how individuals and groups can understand and apply complex information. That's what we see, and what we see in this partnership is the next part, which was how do we start to embed these services, these knowledge capabilities out there in the community. And we're actively engaged with the Dayton Development Coalition at this point in working with this center to do that. And in that context, what I'd like to do is just turn it over to Jim Leftwich, the CEO of the Dayton Development Coalition, to talk a little bit more about this collaborative effort. Jim?
Thank you. You know, this region is blessed with a lot of research and development. $2 billion of research going on at the Air Force Research Laboratory, Centers of Excellence, the fourth one here at Wright State University. From 2000 to 2008, $670 million of SBIR money came into the state, and 40% of that came into this region, more than any other region in the state. So we've got an abundance of research and development work going on, delivering an abundance of technology. And what we've done in this region, as Dr. Hopkins pointed out, is build focus around 4 areas. And those 4 areas are aerospace research and development, advanced materials, advanced manufacturing, human sciences and healthcare, and information technology. And through much support from the Third Frontier, we built a strategic framework that allows us to collaborate between industry, academia, and government around that research, to push that research and the technologies developed as a function of that research through commercialization channels, like daytaOhio. And daytaOhio can sit there with a view towards the application and the value of that technology and the need of the industry and help make those connections. And that's what this partnership and this collaboration between daytaOhio, the Dayton Development Coalition, and the Center of Excellence, Kno.e.sis, that's the intent, is to further identify opportunities where we can take the technologies and the research that's being accomplished, link it in with industry partners, and further grow the commercialization opportunities for this region. It's an opportunity that, as Terry pointed out, is just the beginning. It's taken it to the next level because the work that's been done already is tremendous. But the opportunities will boggle the mind. And as Dr. Hopkins said, what you see and what you think the future can be is something you can't even imagine at this point in time. So what we're going to do is work actively with daytaOhio, with this new Center of Excellence and the other Centers of Excellence, and seek new collaboration and new commercialization opportunities to further grow jobs and prosperity here in the Dayton region. Thank you. Jerry?
Thank you, Jim. And I think that's indicative, as I say, of the kind of collaboration that we've had over now almost a decade and over a decade. And what we're really looking at then in terms of this collaboration is we want to look at how we start to complement Kno.e.sis Center in sort of two ways that are consistent with the vision and the regional role that daytaOhio had set out. And the first of those is to continue to expand, if you will, the scope of R&D into the knowledge services. And we talked a lot about this initial work in the sensors area, where we start to look at technologies that are coming out of the web and other areas and starting to apply them to the practical issues of multi-layered sensing, an area of focus and interest at the Air Force Research Lab. We talked about commercialization. Dr. Silver talked about the work going on with Lexus. In fact, there have been a whole series of meetings with Lexus to understand how to take elements of the work that Dr. Sheth has been focused on and start to look at how those might be infused into the product and offerings of LexisNexis, who were one of the first knowledge services companies, not only in this region, but arguably around the world. In addition to that, we want to look at the impact of Kno.e.sis on regional economic development. First and foremost is the issue of how you attract more research and development funding. Now, Dr. Sheth's record speaks for itself, and clearly the work in collaboration with Wright State, Dr. Hopkins, and others in terms of bringing the dollars here, because, quite correctly, first you find the money, then you build infrastructure, then you build jobs. That's how this thing works. And so being able to have an organization like this to attract these funds is critically important. In addition, we are now working actively with the coalition in terms of a structured process for dealing with that, to look at how we start to develop startups. We've already done some work in 4 or 5 of these startups. One of them, for example, starts to look at an issue of sentiment analysis related to stocks and what that might mean. That whole other dimension other than buy-sell type things. But what are people saying about it, which ties into the remarks that were made earlier about analyzing and understanding Twitter traffic and things like that. And clearly there are companies here above and beyond LexisNexis that we want to build relationships with to infuse these new types of services into their businesses, and if you will, restart or re-energize them and take them down a whole different path of opportunity and development. And so when we look at that in terms of this process that we're going to go through, we really are continuing on with the mission that the Wright Center started with. And so we're going to look at these initial opportunities, build on those through cataloging the intellectual property, and add them. But I want to talk about one area particularly, and that last area related to cyberspace and human effectiveness. There is this whole developing area of open source intelligence and what to do with this stuff. What to do with the citizen sensor, what to do with the images off cell phones, what to do with the tweets and other things, and how to build that along with other elements of intelligence gathering into a coherent and very, very rich view of a situation of creating a dimension of awareness. And in that context, we think some of that gets integrated into compelling visualizations that we need to create and the work of daytaOhio so we can really take advantage of these things. And there's work going on already. Some of it has already been referred to. For example, the work with Dr. Gilkey, with Wright State University, the Air Force Research Lab in the Human Performance Area, where we in fact have, to Dr. Flack's point, 2 virtual environments connected together. We're working with Dr. Shall, also in terms of understanding how people can collaborate and how directional audio, for example, can affect their ability to perform in arguably very hostile, very challenging environments. SAIC, we did some initial work with them looking at opportunities relative to this sensory environment around audio. We're now starting to talk about a whole control environment about the deployment of sensors and assisting operators in terms of how to deploy and use these things using sophisticated visualization environments, including immersive. And that builds on some work we did in the energy exploration sector. We're working with Kettering and Siemens in terms of medical imaging, and have already done enhanced imaging development on MRI data that's being gathered from studies that were done in conjunction with the Air Force Research Lab. And on the commercial space, we've already discussed some of the opportunities in terms of ontologies, semantic browsers, and so on, Lexis, and the work that's going on there. And this last point I raise is very interesting. All of this information technology requires a significant amount of energy, and that will become an increasingly compelling issue. We believe this ties in with opportunities in the Dayton region with their OH2 Open for Business initiative around the aquifer and the opportunities for geothermal opportunities in this area, because ultimately we are going to have to find the energy to do this. We're going to have to find green energy. We're going to have to support that in terms of things like SB 221, the state's initiative to reduce both the carbon footprint and the overall use of energy. And so that's the other reason, and we think that working with Dr. Sheff and his group will allow us tremendous insights into how to go about that challenge. With that, I'd like to close. I'll turn it back to Dr. Sheff. Thank you.
So in the